Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. It is Tuesday, November 20th, and a lot of times my videos are actually inspired by real-world situations and conversations. And in the last couple of weeks, I have found myself having this particular conversation with a few different students of mine. And so that's my cue to talk about it online. What am I talking about? Well, I am talking about the unlimited potential, the limitless potential that we are inherently, and that on the way to limitless, what we find is ego. So oftentimes students will come to Ashtanga especially, and they will think, oh, I can do that, or I can't do that, or it'll take me forever to do that. And, oh, that pose is so hard for me. And they've created this way to measure the distance between where they are and where they want to be, and if they're like closing the gap or not. And it's been super revealing for me to step back after all these years to kind of change that relationship. And what I've noticed actually is that, again, what we do is we base our worth on where we're at in relation to the practice, instead of just saying, that's ego. That's just ego. Where I'm at in this moment, and how I measure that distance by saying, I'll never be good enough. I'll never be strong enough. I'll never be flexible enough. I'm too old. I started too late. Whatever, that is the lesson. The lesson isn't getting the pose. The lesson is confronting and dealing with the ego that shows up in relation to the experience of having the pose, the experience of showing up on your mat, the experience of having a daily practice. Everything in between is the ego. So, for example, I was having a conversation again, and she was talking about her hips and how when she goes into the seated poses, she's realized that frustration always comes up. And so what do we do as practitioners? Typically, we try to omit the things that trigger us. I'm not going to go into my hips, and if I do, I'm certainly not going to stay there very long. I'm not going to do the full 5 breaths, or so maybe I'll do 1 breath, or maybe I'll modify. Oh my goodness gracious, how often do we modify to avoid the work? But it's the confronting. It's confronting what is in front of us. The discomfort and the part that wants to tell us we're not good enough. It's confronting that is the work. That is the work, okay? Whether or not you're able to achieve the asana or achieve the full practice, that's not the goal. The goal is to confront the work in between. So a story that I've been telling, over and over lately is my own personal story. So 10 years ago, it was about 10 years ago, I was trying to figure out how to go from lolasana to handstand. I had no problem doing the pickup and jump back, but I couldn't quite figure out how to go to handstand. Now, I knew mechanically it wasn't going to be the same as jumping back to chaturanga, so I'm playing with dropping my head and getting my hips over my shoulders and all of these mechanical things, but I still was jumping out instead of up. I was going out with my legs instead of over my shoulders where they needed to be. And I was getting a little frustrated. So, I've been an advocate or proponent, whatever, of the whole mind over matter thing my whole life. And I thought there's got to be a way. And if there's not a way, if I'm not meant to do this, then that's what I need to accept and stop beating myself up over not getting it. So one day I got on my mat and I did a little meditation, and I specifically said to my higher self, I was like, okay, I really want to do this, but I don't even know if it's possible for me. So I need you to show me my limits. Like, I need to see my real limits versus my perceived limits, because so much of what we deal with isn't real, it's perceived. So I was like, and I'll accept that. Whatever those real limitations are, I'll accept those. But I don't know right now what is legitimate limitation and what is like just my perception. And I got on my mat that day, and guess who went from low loss to a handstand for the first time, like a no-brainer? Me. And that's when I was like, oh wow. Like, if you really just get the ego out of the way, you're limitless. There are no boundaries. There are no limitations. We create them. You can change the relationship to what is going on in your body, on your mat, in your practice, in your life at any given time. If you change your perception, you are limitless. Okay, each and every single one of us are connected to the infinite divine cosmic energy that is everything. So the only thing that stops you from experiencing, creating, or achieving the things that you want is your perception of the situation at any given moment. I'm not strong enough. I'm not good enough. And it's really, I know I've talked about this in a lot of my videos, and I'm going to say it again. Trauma is real. Imprints are real. But they can only be sustained in the body if you give them permission. So if you change the dialogue and you move through the old traumas as they come up, they have to go away too. But that's a slippery one, because a lot of times our bodies will talk back in the form of grief or anger or hostility, and that's how we end up omitting or what's the word? When you gosh, I just lost my thought. When you modify, when you modify, that's how we end up modifying so often, is because we make the assumption that we can't go there. Says who? Don't be afraid to confront your own ego. Don't be afraid to challenge your own ego. Don't be afraid to call the bluff on your own bullshit and be like, really? Is this real? Or is this just my perception right now? Because you are limitless, and everything in between is just ego. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.